Hello, everyone. My name's John Snader, and this is another installment of Jabbering with John. Today, my guest is Gloria Denlinger. Gloria is a resident, a volunteer, and she's a woman whom I've known for 20 plus years or so. So we want to introduce, if you don't know Gloria, we want to introduce her to you, but also share a little bit about how Gloria enriches the lives of residents here at Brethren Village and a very special population that we have. But we'll get to that in a little bit. But first, maybe Gloria, you could tell us a little bit about who Gloria Denlinger is, what brought her to Brethren Village, and what Gloria did before she came to Brethren Village to help enrich lives here.
Thank you, John. My husband Chuck and I lived in Millersville for many years. Chuck was a math professor at the university in Millersville. We raised our family there. When I first married, I was teaching home economics at McCaskey High School in Lancaster. When Chuck needed to go back to grad school for his PhD, we just kind of pulled up stakes and moved to East Lansing, where Chuck went to grad school at Michigan State. When we came back to Millersville, we had our family, started our family here, and enjoyed our time at Millersville. I went back to work as an elementary school secretary, which I did for 18 and a half years, and it was one of those jobs that isn't a job. You just love it because the kids are great, teachers are great, and there's still a group of 12 of us that get together, all retired. We get together a couple of times a year and just have a really good time together. So I've had a really interesting life, and it's one that had its challenges, but all lives do. Chuck and I decided to move to Brethren Village. We moved into our new cottage across from Chives on Fairview Drive on April 15th, 2014. And I looked out the kitchen window during the course of that day, and there's a retention basin behind our cottage. There's a white pipe that comes up from the ground, and sitting on the top of that pipe was a bluebird. Now, we had a bluebird house at our home in Millersville for all those years. It was occupied by the chickadees, not the bluebirds. So the whole time we were in Millersville, I never saw a bluebird. The first day I moved into the cottage at Brethren Village, there was a bluebird. So that kind of piqued my interest and thought, this is going to be interesting. So at that time, the mailboxes weren't finished, and Chuck would walk across the street to Fieldcrest to get our mail each day. And one day he came back and he said, I met a person by the name of David White. He was looking for someone to monitor bluebird boxes here on campus. And Chuck said, well, I think I have somebody in mind that might be interested in doing that. So I met David White. We did a walk of the campus. I don't remember how many bluebird boxes there were at that time, but it was late in the season. It was close to Labor Day, and David had carefully cleaned out all of the boxes so there were no bluebirds that could be seen because the season ends pretty much at Labor Day. So the following year, I started with bluebird monitoring of the boxes on campus. In the meantime, I had looked up online what I needed to know about bluebirds and how to get started. Fortunately, one of my neighbors, Marion Wood, decided she would like to do the same thing. So together we started out and learned and had a really good time with it. And I invited Dean Rust, who is Dr. Dean Rust. He's a retired dentist from Strasburg. He is president of the Pennsylvania Bluebird Society, and he also has a father-in-law that lives on campus here at Brethren Village. And he had built 3 bluebird boxes, and they were placed around the retention basin along Fairview Drive. So I invited Dean. He walked with us throughout the campus, gave us lots of information about how to monitor bluebird boxes. And when we got to the very end of the trail, Dean opened the last box, and a female bluebird was sitting on the nest, and she did not move, not an inch. And Dean stood there and talked for about a minute and a half. And for a bluebird, that's a long time. And she never flew away. Then he closed the box and we went on our way. So with that experience, plus reading more online, I just really got hooked on bluebirds. So that's pretty much the background of how I got started, and I absolutely love it.
Well, there, there you have it, folks. That's what we were trying to share with you today, and I'm glad that Gloria went right to it. It's about the bluebirds. They're an important member of our community, and we want to share a little bit today of Gloria's expertise on those bluebirds and why they matter to Brethren Village. I had the opportunity to sit with Gloria about 2 months ago, and the subject of bluebirds came up. And this is one of the great aspects of the job of being the CEO of a retirement community. You're always able to learn from residents. And I learned a lot about bluebirds and thought that what I learned might also be of interest to you. So I'm glad you have agreed to come on today's Jabbering with John segment and teach us a little bit about bluebirds. What is a bluebird?
It's a small, just happen to have a picture of it. This is what a bluebird looks like. They're about the size of a sparrow. So they're rather small. They're very gentle. I have a sense that they're aware of people. They might be in the feeder when I go out to add more mealworms to the container, but they come right back. It's not as though they've been scared away and they're not coming back. I'm not sure how many years ago, at least 20 years ago, the bluebird, this particular bluebird, was nearly extinct in the United States. And there was a major effort that underway to restore bluebird population. And that's one of the things that the Pennsylvania Bluebird Society does for the bluebird population. When I finish tallying all the reports and records, I keep a record for each bluebird box, what happens in there throughout the summer. I start at the beginning of March and it winds up by Labor Day. And each week that I go out, I indicate what has happened in that box during that period of time, so that I send a report to the Pennsylvania Bluebird Society, and they tally how many bluebirds have been fledged in the state of Pennsylvania, and it's amazing. Dean Rust alone has fledged over 1,000 bluebirds last summer and this summer.
Oh, wow.
That's his aim, but he has several trails. We have 25 boxes on the trail, and this year we have fledged 62. So it's been interesting.
So let's talk a little bit about, you use this word fledge. Tell us a little bit about what does that mean?
Okay. I go to each box. I keep track of what happens in each box. Sometimes the boxes are given over to either tree swallows or to wrens. Sometimes the sparrow will try to take over a nest, but because the sparrow is not a native bird to the United States, I can extract the sparrow nest. The sparrows are not the best friends of bluebirds, and I experienced that a little bit this summer. The box that's right outside of our cottage, I knew that it had its third set of eggs in it this summer. And I knew that there were 3 eggs. And I went back. That one actually was 10 days later. And the bluebirds had died. And they don't die on their own generally. But the sparrow most likely is the one that got in the box. And according to Dean, they will poke out the eyes of the bluebirds and kill them, which is just really so sad. And it's been a burden for me this summer because I just have never experienced that and hope that I don't again.
I think what I would understand from our conversation and the little bit that I understand of bluebirds, it's this extraordinary connection between humans and bluebirds and trying to help them come back from the brink of extinction and to demonstrate that love that perhaps St. Francis made clear to all of us about just our love for animals and our ability to help. And it sounds like that interaction between humans and bluebirds, there is some kind of connection.
For me,
that's
there
there.
is.
Yeah.
I can't, that doesn't meet everybody's needs, but I certainly enjoy it. It's been a gift for me at Berlin Village.
Tell us a little bit, if you would, about what is that gift? What does that? How does that make you feel when you're out checking the 25 boxes?
I check each individual box and record what happens in that box, whether it's given over to other birds or whether it's empty all summer or whether bluebirds take up residency in it. The bluebird nest itself is very neat. It's usually made of pine needles, but it's beautiful. Compared to the tree swallow, which adds feathers and all kinds of stuff to it, it just looks a mess. And the wrens use sticks in their nest, and it will fill up most of the box. You can't see the wrens in there. But it's the bluebird that knows how to be the architect of a gorgeous nest. So the eggs are laid. Takes about 2 weeks for the eggs to hatch, and I get to see them from newborns without any feathers, without any little fuzz on them, all the way up until they're ready to fledge. And at that point, I have to be careful how I open the boxes. My hand is always under there in case one of them is up on top of the nest. But for me, John, magic is not the word that I want to use for opening a bluebird box. It's more of a God moment for me. It becomes a spiritual moment, and it's very personal. And it's something that I haven't really shared with a lot of people because I'm very selfish, and it's not a team sport. It's not something that I need lots of support in order to make it happen. It's pretty much a one-on-one. And it is a God moment for me.
Well, just as you described what it was like when Dr. Rust opened it up, and there is a mother on her nest and so forth, that has to be an extraordinary time of just seeing life. Now, you mentioned that this isn't a team effort, so maybe you could tell us a little bit what it is that you do. It is a bit of a process, going around and checking those boxes. Like, how often do you do those boxes? And exactly what does it mean when you're checking those boxes?
I do this once a week. I go to each box. Most of them are closed with a screw. So I have my tool bag with me that has lots of things in it. And I see what's there. Some of the boxes have it's called a nest cup, but what it amounts to is a small pot that you might buy small plants in from Stouffer's. Dean likes to put those in because they're easier to take care of than just cleaning out the whole box. And then I record what happens in the box.
It's a busy effort you have. So you have those 25 boxes around campus, and the boxes are secured.
Right.
And they're secured for a reason. And what is that? So that people just don't go over and open up the boxes.
Right.
Is that...
No, this is not something that we want people to be curious about and go and check it out. This is something that I'm very dedicated to, and at some point I will need to turn it over to someone else. But at this point, I'm very, very selfish about the bluebird boxes and very protective. There are two people that support my efforts. One is Doug Dosh. Doug is responsible for all of the poles. Most of them at this point are metal poles. And if you ever notice bluebird boxes on campus, they're not in a part of the grass that needs to be mowed every week. They're set back in the retention basins and in the areas where the grass can be taller. And then Chuck Wood, who lives in the 400 cottages and also works over in the wood shop, is as interested in bluebirds as I am, and he enjoys repairing or making the boxes. So the three of us have a team that work together as we need to. I just sent Chuck and Doug an email at the end of my visit last week of what boxes need to be repaired and what needs to happen for next year. So it works well for us.
Well, it sounds like we're responsible landlords to our bluebirds and through the work that you do. For 25 boxes and checking them on a weekly basis, how long does that take you to do your rounds?
About an hour and a half each time. It depends whether I'm cleaning out nests or just checking, and most of them are already stable for this particular period of time. But it's the biggest job is this time of year to make sure all the boxes are clean for the winter time. And that takes time because all birds, they're creatures of nature, so the boxes are not clean at this point in time. So I have a mixture of water, 10 parts water, 1 part Clorox, with a brush that I use to clean the interior of the boxes. And then after I have all of that the way I like it to be, then I use just a water solution to make sure it's all clean and all the Clorox is out of there.
Wow. So out of the 25 boxes, do you usually find bluebirds in how many of those boxes?
I was thinking about that this morning. There were 6 tree swallow nests and 6 wren nests. So that takes care of 12 of the 25. And the 63 bluebirds that fledged, I think there were probably 8 nests. So there were a few boxes that had nothing in them over the summer. But then the bluebirds will normally have 2 sets of eggs in the same season. And I had 2 nests that had 3 sets of eggs this year. If the nest is in good shape and the box isn't a mess, I will leave the first nest in until at least the next week when I'm able to go and monitor that box. If it's a mess, I'll take it out right away, but I'll come back the next week and there's another nest in it. And that's just really special.
It's almost as if the bluebirds communicate with each other that they know of a really good place at the intersection of Airport Road and 501.
I like to think that.
I think we would all share that we like to think that word gets around even within the animal kingdom among birds. When you see the bluebirds, is it like a would the same hen come back to the same house, or again, I'm maybe asking a question that we don't know the answer, but do they return to the same nests, maybe for two hatching, fledgling?
I can't answer that. I have no way of knowing because I don't have them tagged in any way. I like to think that the same bluebird comes back to the same nest, particularly the ones that are right behind my cottage that I get to watch every day. But I have no way of knowing. In the period of time since 2015, when I started monitoring these, there have been 1 or 2 boxes that there have never been a bluebird nest in it. And then there are those that there is always a bluebird nest in. And I can't sort out the difference. I have no way of knowing. But I like to think, especially the ones behind our cottage, come back every year. Actually, the bluebirds stay here all winter. They don't fly south. They are not like the robin.
Wow.
They stay here all winter.
Well, they know where their nest is feathered, I guess, here at Brethren Village and through the good work that you do. I thank you for sharing this today. This, again, is one of those aspects of Brethren Village that I think makes it a great place to live, and also is an opportunity for us to get to know another resident and their unique ministry that they offer, in this case to our bluebird friends. I would say that we like to think of ourselves as good stewards of God's creation. And I guess there's a little bit of St. Francis in all of us that, we take care of the bluebirds. And I think I'd share with you that idea that we'd like to think that they keep coming back and they know exactly where life is good and enriching.
But please also know that I'm not the only one that monitors bluebirds on campus. There are individuals who live in cottages who have bluebird boxes of their own. And they monitor them, and they clean them, they take care of it, and then they let me know at the end of the summer how many they have fledged. So it works well.
So there's a strong union of bluebird watchers that are out there. Well, that's great. I think that's marvelous that we do find our home to be very accommodating, very pleasing to our bluebird friends. So thanks for sharing a little bit about that. Hopefully, as you get out and you take a look around, when you see those beautiful bluebirds, and they are beautiful when you see them. There's no mistaking a bluebird when you see it. You can thank God for that beautiful creature, but also our fellow resident Gloria Denlinger for the work that she does, and for sharing a little bit about bluebirds and what happens with those bluebirds here at Brethren Village. So with that, we'll bring this episode of Jabbering with John to a close. I hope you found it enriching, enlightening, and learned a little bit more, and maybe spurs you to go and investigate a little bit more about bluebirds. So until next time, have a very good day. Thanks.